everybody. I am just going to wait till we get a few people popping on. But obviously today is International Women's Day and we have been celebrating this morning in the office. We got handed out, our gorgeous designer is very clever and did this one is for you and created our own little cute stickers with our names on it saying Happy International Women's Day, you rock. So I just love that. I just thought that was such a cute little thing. But obviously we always come from a parenting perspective, or we're always in our, mode of being, mind of being mum, and what we can do to really choose to challenge as parents, especially when it comes to our little ones. And I know I have 2 girls and a boy, and this is something that is always such a big conversation in our home. So I thought, why don't we get our wonderful sex and health educator on today, on this live, to really talk about how as parents we can choose to challenge. So, what are some of the things that we can put in place to make sure that when we're raising these little ones, that we are doing the right thing when it comes to being respectful and not biased when it comes to gender and so forth. So I am going to add Vanessa from Talking the Talk Sex Education now. So just give me one moment. Sorry, Vanessa. Let me see. 1 second. Oh, talk about technical difficulty. I jinxed myself with the last one. I had somebody on straight away. All right, and I know she is waiting there patiently for us. All right, Vanessa, I hope you can. A moment. I know that often we ask people to leave any questions. We will try and keep on there. Oh my gosh, that was quick. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you? Was that quick, was it?
What's that, sorry?
That's the first time I've done a live, so I did it quickly, did I?
You did it very quickly. It was me that stalled just before because I was like playing around with the buttons and the connect, and I was just saying last live that I did, it was instantaneous. So I thought, I thought I was fumbling my way there. But thank you so much. You jumped on super quick. How are you?
No worries. We're so good at technology because we're women on International Women's Day. Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm great. Lovely to chat to you.
I know, it's so good, and I know it's a public holiday down there, so I so appreciate you saying yes, absolutely, I would not miss it for the world.
Except I have just gone out and said to the kids, shh, don't come in and ask for anything.
Well, I'm in the office, thankfully, otherwise I would have had the same situation. But I was just saying, I got the cutest little card. Our designer created these gorgeous little personalised stickers. How cute is that?
Beautiful.
Saying, rock. So we are just having a fun morning celebrating, but as always, I just love what you have to say whenever we talk about gender biases and so forth. And I thought first I might just recap on the whole choose to challenge theme that they've got going this year, which is obviously talking about the way that a challenged world is an alert world. And with challenge comes change. So for us, it is about how can we challenge and help forge a gender equal world. And I think, we often speak, and I know you've got some wonderful content already in the app around rigid gender stereotypes and how do we have these conversations with our little ones. So I thought, I would love to hear what you have to say from a sexuality education perspective is, what can we do as parents on International Women's Day to take awareness and really make sure that we're, educating our kids in the right way and leading by example.
Well, I love the theme that it was to challenge. Let's choose challenge to create a difference. And something just to acknowledge, especially here in Australia at the moment, when we challenge things and we create change, it can be uncomfortable. And I think currently we're sitting in a place of a lot of discomfort regarding relationships and respectful relationships in this country, from the highest place in the land down to every schoolyard and home. And it's difficult, but we've got to sit with it, but we've got to go with this. And on that topic, I'd just like to acknowledge that not everyone's experiences of sex and sexuality are positive ones. So if you're listening here today, some of these things might press your buttons and give you some discomfort. So do follow up for yourself with that, with support. But yeah, what can parents do? Just do something. This is the time to embrace this this change and a time for change. So we can challenge disrespect. We can look at limiting rigid gender stereotypes and those labels that are outdated and unhelpful and inequitable, you know, and it's so easy. It just comes naturally for us because it's ingrained in us, you know.
Yeah.
And I think I'd like to give you, go.
I was going to say, do you think a lot of it comes from our own upbringing? The fact that, yeah, I know my husband, I always pull him up. He's got this thing, he feels bad. Our son is such a sensitive little thing, and he's got two strong sisters that I'm always, you know, the younger one needs me a lot, and then the older one demands my attention. So he's always talking about boys' weekend and, you know, like, you know, no, don't do that. Let's not put any gender on a pedestal.
No.
Keep it all the same.
The children are children. They are human and they have the same emotions and the same feelings as each other.
Yes.
And I have 3 boys and they play a lot of sport, and I'm so aware of it at every sports game. Get up, you're all right, toughen up, toughen up. They've just smashed themselves on the basketball court.
Yeah.
No, they're hurt.
Yes.
And we're telling them to suppress their emotions, and that's that start of suppressing your emotions, that you can't say that you hurt and you can't cry. You know, if we think about AFL, you know, it's a big thing if someone cries, you know, it's getting better, but it hurts. You know, your broken bone hurts, so you can cry. It's okay.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's something that we sorry, I keep butting in, but that's something we are very much focused on doing lately, because our son is such a sensitive soul. He does cry, and we do welcome that, so we can help him navigate his feelings. And my husband said that very thing on actually a video we did a couple of weeks ago, that he has had to remove the toughen up language from his vocab, because again, it's very innocent that he does these things sometimes, but it just comes out, and I can't help but think this is the stuff that we heard when we were kids. So it's just natural that every, you know, now and then it does come out.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's about us reflecting on our language and our what just comes naturally. But our children are forming their beliefs about the world that will form their adult and teenage beliefs by how they're being spoken to now, and the stories and the people and experiences that are integral to their childhood. That's impacting them later on in life. And when we get to these situations where they start relationships and sexual encounters, all those layer upon messages are there. And there's just so many examples of inequity I could give you today. You know, we can talk about consent and how puberty education, for example, is failing our kids. And parents can change that so simply.
Yeah, and is that obviously a lot of the work that you do? For those that haven't heard us talk about Vanessa before, but Vanessa plays a very important role, because you are at the forefront, you are going into schools, you are hearing what they know and what they've already been exposed to. And, you know, I like to think that we are having these open conversations now with my 6 years and under kids, but that's not the case in every family.
Certainly is not the case in every family, unfortunately. I do parent sessions and the same themes come out no matter where I am talking in Australia, because it's on Zoom now, so I can speak everywhere. The same things come up. People fear these conversations. People haven't stopped and thought about, how could I do this differently? And, you know, there's fantastic resources. Respect.gov.au, an Australian government resource. Stop It at the Start campaign. Go there, parents. After you watch this today, go there. It has fantastic resources on how to talk to your kids about respect.
We might drop that in the comments, that link in the comments.
Yeah. Respect.gov.au. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And interesting what you said. I guess I wanted to chat about the disrespect and the rigid gender stereotypes, because yes, it is the, you know, knowing that all our feelings are the same, and really trying to stop this kind of pro-boy man type thing. But something that came up for me recently was my daughter is always in the library at school. She's 6. And she loves to draw, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I was trying to encourage some physical activity, and I said to her, why aren't you going out? You had your hat today. Why don't you want to go out there and play with your friends? And then it was almost like a little confession she said to me when she was in the bar. She said, but Mummy, all the girls, all they do is chase after boys and try and kiss them, and I don't want to do that. And I was like, well, you absolutely do not need to do that. But it had me thinking, you know, what are we exposed to versus, you know, how early on is this starting, where we're idolizing these boys and these relationships? And I mean, she's unsure about how to navigate it, because she probably does want to be out there hanging out with the girls and doing that. But
I might be a bit controversial here now at this point, but I think let's sit with the discomfort. Having the 3 boys and the things that they tell me at school as well, these kids are getting messages from the TV. from popular culture,
Yeah.
from music videos, from advertisements, and they think that's the way to behave. And they don't know, we've separated them so much, they don't actually know how to, they don't have the social skills to start that conversation and play together, because
Yeah.
it's so ingrained. Well, the girls, see, so for example, some of things I've heard at school is, they just come and take our ball off us, Mum. We're just trying to play a game and they come and take our ball off us. The girls want to join in and play.
Yeah.
That's why they're taking the ball. And I've said, well, you need to encourage them to join in. But it's so ingrained that the boys and the girls don't play together. And the boys just play the
Right.
sport. And the girls, well, what do the girls do? They just go and sit over there. And it's also hard for the girls to just come out and say, well, we're going to have the basketball court today. You guys can go and, that's not going to happen, because they're not encouraged to do that. So as parents, we need to see kids as kids, not as male and female, and encourage those social aspects of negotiating a mutually enjoyable activity to do together, and it's seen as equitable.
Yes.
And she's right. And she might be a bit different to the others who are lacking in maturity. And lots of times I've had to say to my kids, well, kids grow up and mature at different ways, and you know quite a lot about how to do that. My three boys have got, I don't know, 10, 7, 8, 9, 10 nieces, cousins that are all female. So they've grown up playing with them all the time. My 10-year-old, one of his best friends is his 11-year-old cousin. And so they play the same things, and it's about encouraging them to read, play sport, no matter what gender they are. And just on that point, can I just acknowledge that when we're talking about women and boys and girls today, I'm talking about people who identify as boy or girl or woman. Yeah.
Yes. And on that point, Jess and I actually, Jess is sitting beside me listening in. She said, I'm so keen to hear what you're saying. But we were actually talking about the fact that does it make a difference whether or not you've come from a family? Obviously, I have boys and girls. They're equal in our family. If you've just got an all-girl family, then they're probably, if they don't have cousins or they aren't exposed to, to the boys, maybe they aren't familiar, and maybe it is this kind of weird thing that they get a bit excited, or I wonder what type of role that plays.
Yeah, well, how do the parents play those roles? How do they play it out with the kids? I've got a household full of boys, and I have to make an effort to leave period products out and to talk about menstruation and periods. So I'll make a point of saying, oh, I've got a bit of pain today. So that, oh, what's going on? And I said, I've got period. Oh, last night I said it. And I said, wow, 450 to 500 times in my lifetime I have to go through this. I am so strong. Yes, I get nothing back, but, the wheels are turning, and I've said the statement. And that brings me to the point of recently being in a classroom of 12-year-olds in particular groups. Some kids have never had any education at all about respectful relationships. It just, by circumstance, 2020 did not help. And they were throwing the pads and tampons around. Ooh, we can't touch them, they're disgusting. And I see this in every class, this disgust and repulsion about puberty. Yeah. And puberty education throughout history has been periods for girls, wet dreams for boys.
Yeah, I remember.
The inequity in that is just terrible. So I changed it to periods and menstruation and eggs and all those sorts of things in line with the sperm production. And then down here is wet dreams, erections and ejaculation for male, and vaginal wetness and lubrication and arousal for physical females as well. And I say to them, we don't have a name for it for females, but females who might have a romantic or sexy thought at night, they might have lubrication in the vagina. We could probably call it wet dreams as well. And they're all like, oh, yeah, as all the faces who've experienced that sort of nod.
Cogs are turning, yeah. And I think it is the conversation, and I always love what you have to say about being an askable parent, because I think you always say to me, because obviously we do a lot of work in those first 5 years, and I remember when I first met you, I was like, so how early are we having these conversations? And I know you say it depends on the child and being there to listen and see how much they know, but yeah, it's like you talk about things like consent and body safety too throughout the app. So I love the fact that you say that we're talking a lot earlier. I mean, we're talking from the toddler years. This is when we can be starting a lot of these conversations.
And I think you put the example before with your child. You have been having these conversations for many years, and they will stand out and they will be different, because lots of parents certainly aren't having those conversations. And it's about the things you say every day, all the time. Recently we had a situation where some parenting parenting advice to children was very different in two families. One was very listening to them and saying, what could you have done in that situation? And another group of parents said, well, you should have fought back. You're a boy, you should have fought back. And so constantly saying, we have these conversations in our household, but not everybody does. But I want you to have the best experiences, so we're going to talk it through, you know, and hopefully that filters out to everyone having these experiences. Schools, you know, at the moment, parents want schools to talk about consent and respectful relationship, and schools want parents to do it. Who's going to do it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think too, you know, schools aren't doing it obviously to an older age. So I think really let's look at us as parents about what we can be doing from a younger age, from as early as these playground interactions where they are 6 years old and maybe they want something that the other one has. And, you know, just, I just feel like we are there so frequently with our little ones. We have the opportunity to have these conversations.
It's not hard to teach consent. I'm teaching preps on Monday morning, and I'm going to teach consent like I do in every class. And we say, what is consent? And we say, if I came to you and said, can I try your shoelaces? And you said no, are you giving me consent? And they all say, no. And I say, what if you say, maybe? No, that's not consent. What's consent? Yes, please tie my shoelaces. There you go, everyone. There's consent in prep.
There is consent in prep. How amazing that they're getting you in at prep years. I didn't realise that it was that early that they're...
Well, in 40 minutes, we talk about body safety. We draw our body boundary around our body. And the prep teachers have said to me, it's amazing, Vanessa, the language they use, rather than just coming in for the kiss and the hug in the classroom. They say, stop, you're not asking permission to come into my body boundary.
Yes. Isn't that awesome?
And another, you go.
No, you go.
Well, just an example, I was teaching some, I think they were 12 and 13-year-olds last week, and we talked about teaching consent in prep. I'd just been interviewed on the ABC on the way in, and I gave them the example of learning in the playground where kids are mutually enjoying, negotiating a mutually enjoying game to play. So if someone says, you promised you'd play Lego if I invited you to my house. You have to play Lego with me. And one of the 13-year-olds said, well, it would be pretty disappointing if they changed their mind. Wow. The peer conversation that occurred was gold.
Yeah, I bet. But it puts things into perspective, doesn't it?
That is sexual consent right there. And we're talking about Legos. So then we went on to have this fantastic conversation. I was very proud of myself for coming up with this. We're like, well, what if the castle is nearly finished?
Yeah.
Just about finished, and the person decides they don't want to continue?
Yeah.
Well, they can say that. They all said, that's right. So whatever activity we're doing with someone, whether it's holding their hand or building a Lego castle, if someone decides they don't want to do it anymore, then they're allowed to say they don't want to. And you know, the best bit about doing something with another person is that you both want to do it. You'll have the best time.
Yes, exactly. And actually, Jess and I were just chatting on that just before as well. We had a big conversation about this, actually. We always have our like Monday morning debrief of what happened on the weekend. And we were talking about things like tickling and, you know, family members or people that force you to hug and kiss them. And, you know, these are opportunities for us to let them know that, you know, if they don't feel comfortable with it and they don't want to, then we shouldn't. And yeah, the tickling one we thought was an interesting one because it's, you know, it's almost like they're saying stop, stop, stop. But you think it's funny and cute because they're laughing
you keep going.
And you keep going. But then it's like, oh, maybe you should pull that back.
And people will say, you know, and we have to look after kids. So in the book I read about consent and touching your body parts, you do say to the kids, sometimes if you're sick, a doctor or a nurse might have to touch your body parts, but you need to give permission for that because that's for your health. But an example of that, I took my son to hospital once. He was young, he was 5, and it was suspected appendicitis. And so they quite rightly so checked his testicles, but the doctor pulled his pants down and went to check the testicles before asking him, and I put my arms out and stopped.
Yeah, good on you.
This is at a children's hospital. Yeah, sorry, but I didn't want to disrespect him, but I put my arms out and I said to the child, is it okay if the doctor checks your testicles, because they need to check for any problems that might be there. Is that all right? And I said, it's okay with me and I'm here with you. And the child said yes. And I spoke to the doctor after, and I said,
And a teachable moment.
that's right.
But
Yeah.
actually,
And
I went for the 4-year checkup the other day, and my doctor, she's fabulous. She explained to Zarek what she was going to do and why she was going to check them, and she pulled his pants down and did that. And I thought, wow,
yeah,
that's very good, because you're right. Too often, I think from a very early age, we just dive in there and just think, well, they just have to do what they're told, or in a hurry. But you're right, it really is, asking, explaining the whys as well.
And so I will grab your hand to cross the road, even if you don't want to touch my hand, because your safety is at risk and I'm the adult.
Yes.
And some people who really go all the way with consent might disagree with me, but I think there's a common ground, and you can have, and the kids are fine with that. They know you've got to hold their hand. But that teaching consent from a young age is not hard. There's these big conversations about it. There's more to consent than consent. There's so much more to it. It's about body autonomy. It's about empathy for the other person. And they're all conversations. I can't stand the word sex ed. I don't like that, because it has hardly anything to do with sex.
Yes.
It's human sexuality education, which is respecting other humans and being an empathetic, respectful, wonderful person, and enjoying other people's respect and empathy back.
Exactly.
And that's just in common conversations.
And I think that gives us such a perfect opportunity to be doing that by just simply talking. I think, well, it's all in your name, talking the talk, but it's about starting those conversations, and it comes with practice too. I know, Sabir and I are always working on how we communicate with the kids and what we could do differently and better, but I think just being aware of that in the first place, and then, having that, being on the same page almost with making sure that we are, supporting our kids when they need us to, opening up to the idea of consent. I'm certainly guilty. I was just saying to Jess, when we were talking about consent, I pinned my daughter down this morning. I don't want to act like I'm a perfect parent here. We were in a hurry to get to school, and she was wriggling around as like tomorrow, and I pinned her down and put a nappy on, and then I felt really guilty about it afterwards. So,
but you could go back to her and say, I'm sorry that I had to hold you down and put the nappy on, but that's for your health. To keep you clean.
Exactly.
And I don't want to do that in the future, so let's work together, and maybe go back and do that. We're not perfect parents, and we can't do it. It's imperfect. It's an imperfect world, but we can do so much better. We really can.
We can do. And I think going back to the gender stereotypes, I love what you have to say about, and I've put my notes here, because you said about disrespect and violence. And, obviously there's a lot of conversation going around this at the moment, but how you said that this can be based on rigid gender stereotypes, and that, that it doesn't always lead to violence, but violence always comes from disrespect. So, yeah, I love hearing what you have to say about this.
And the kids respond to this in the classroom so well. So the big kids, I was doing year 8 and 9 last week, and so I show images of advertising. I won't say the brand names, but the advertising of the 4 men standing around in suits and the woman lying down, not looking like a human, with her high heels and her negligee on. And we talk about what's inequitable in this image, and they just pull it apart and take it to town. And we talk about the fact that, as the Stop It at the Start campaign from the Australian government says, not all disrespect results in violence, but all violence starts with disrespect. And I read an article by Natasha Stott-Despoja, who's chairperson of Our Watch, Our Watch, and she said it's going to take about 10 years to change this culture of disrespect. That's too long, parents. No, that's not okay. No, so we can not be bystanders. So we go with the kids, we go through things. What can you say when you hear disrespect? You can call it out. You can say, I don't think everyone would agree with you there. Gee, would you say that to your mum or sister, or, I don't know, what makes you say that? Call it out. And if you don't feel safe to call it out, just give a look that it's not okay, and then go and support the person who's been perpetrated against as far as disrespect. So we can break the cycle of disrespect. We can do a lot about that, parents. So don't just sit back and go, well, what can we do? It's too big. You can do a lot. Today, you can have a conversation with your kids about disrespect. Go onto that website, respect.gov.au, do the questionnaire and do something, because our kids need us. They are having horrendous experiences in their teenage years of sex and sexuality, because pornography is teaching them. And I promise you, there's no respect there.
No, definitely not. And I think, again, it's the foundations of what we're doing now. When you said about, diving in and saying when something's not right. But it is interesting. I did an interview for an article about racism recently, where they interviewed us about, obviously,
Yes,
I have a biracial family.
I loved
And
it.
it really was about, it's not a matter of if, it's when my kids are faced with a situation where someone is being racist towards them, or they make a comment, or they say something. I really always think about now, how can I make my kids resilient enough and comfortable enough in their own skin that they can call it out when it's not okay, and they can put their hand up and say, actually,
That's
no,
right.
that's, yeah. And I think these are, again, all of the foundations that we're putting in place now with these toddlers, with these preschoolers, so that they can, they can have those, the confidence, I guess, to navigate these situations.
That's right. And that stereotypes, as the kids said in the classroom the other day, it's not just gender, there's cultural and racist, and the kids who said that are obviously affected by that and have experienced it. So it's just about being a great human. Come on,
Yeah.
parents, teach your kid to be a
Yes.
great human. And I'm sorry to say it,
Kindness and
but
empathy.
lots of parents don't display that. I'm
Yeah. It's
constantly shocked, especially in
Jess.
sport. Come on, all
Jess
the
is nodding her
sporting
head.
parents. Yeah, do better. Do better. Parents are terrible. We're awful, and
Yeah.
our kids are absorbing it. And then they're getting taught from pornography and popular culture and TV shows like Married, those shows that tell
Yes.
us that's what a respectful relationship is. So we say to the kids, because we're going through all the things that you love in a friendship, and they've got to name 10 things. I give them 100 ideas, and I love it when my friends respect me and laugh at me and support me. And I say, so on home and away, in relationships, do you see all those sort of things? No, you just see everyone getting kidnapped,
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone
It's
getting
like the
kidnapped,
high
and they
priority.
break up and they go back to them and all that sort of stuff. And they can call it out, but we have to say but I say it's going into your most important relationship organ of your
Yes.
body, and it's
Yes.
giving you inaccurate ideas. So I really want you to think about, what do you want in a friendship? And if it becomes girlfriend and boyfriend, what do you want in that? And we teach them about, and it comes up all the time, and I get these from the Respect for Relationships curriculum here in Victoria, that we say that, if you have a boyfriend or girlfriend, do you still need to spend the same amount of time with your friends? Yeah, you do. They all bring it up as an issue, and we know that some of the things that controlling, manipulative people in relationships will do is keep people away from their friends.
Yes.
So you start those early, and we do a fantastic traffic light activity where we read out scenarios and they say what would be okay in a relationship and what wouldn't. Just some amazing peer discussion comes up, because if someone texts you 20 times a day, is that a green light, red light, or orange light? And they have this great discussion, and they say, well, if it was in one day and you were lost and you're in the city and yeah, that's all right. What if someone texts you 20 times a day every day? No.
Yeah.
And I say, well, the person loses their self-esteem because they think they need to check in with their person. And this is
Yes.
teaching that disrespectful behaviour for partnerships before they have them. So hopefully they can recognise it when they're in there and help and get help.
Yeah,
Oh.
absolutely. And I
Mm.
think I just wanted to go back to, I guess, the situations, only because it's fresh for me, with this whole chasing boys, kissing boys, all the rest. I mean, navigating those conversations and things in the playground where, sometimes you want to brush it off and go, oh, they're just little and they're just exploring, and the idea of this. But does it just literally go back to having those conversations with them about consent and what you're doing in the home, I guess?
There's quite a lot of layers to it. It's not simple. First thing is for us to strip back our layers of stuff in our head about sex and sexuality, because all of our good bits and bad bits are irrelevant to the simple situation occurring in front of us. So we think sexualized things when kids are kissing each other and chasing each other. Strip back all that stuff. Let's have a look at it. There is an expected level of behaviour of kids. It's typical for them to, if they're with their peers of equal age, everyone's consenting to playing the game, which they're probably not if they're being chased. So that's a consent
Yeah.
conversation.
Well, yeah.
The kissing, well, that's private body parts, your lips. So private body parts aren't to be touched by anyone or kissed by anyone without their permission, because you've done your 5 body safety rules, parents, remember? So you're
Yes.
adding in layers, the body safety rules, the consent, the empathy, the respect. And to say, you know what, it's not fun to kiss someone if they don't want to kiss you too. It's not fun. We don't do that. But the other thing is, children pre-puberty don't experience sexual desire, arousal, or intent.
No. No.
So they're just acting out what they've seen on TV. They're acting out what everyone tells them, that girls should just kiss boys and boys should act tough and not like it.
Yes.
And it's problematic. And it's the same as when they're in their teen years and we've got these abuses at parties. It's because, now I'm really going off on another tangent, but it's this idea that the female's just there for the male's entitlement.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've seen it in the media recently, all of these conversations coming up just recently, you know, about what's happening in this, you know, all boys and all girls schools and all sorts of things. And it's, it's problematic.
And well, the kids should be distracted from the kissing game to something else.
Yeah.
Let's play something else. Let's go in the library and read, or let's play a game together. And really, you know, teachers could help with encouraging all of them, and I'm not going to name genders, to play a game together, because chasing people for kissing, that's not fun.
Yeah.
That's not fun. Not everyone's enjoying it.
Yeah, I did wonder what's going on. Are they aware of what happens here? Or I'm just secretly happy that she does enjoy the library so much. I think, oh, good, that's an easy one to do.
Well, this is the thing. Poor teachers.
Yeah.
Honestly. How can they manage all those kids in the playground coming in with all these messages they get from home?
Yes.
And society. This is a shared gig, everyone. We can't rely on the teachers. And you want your child to be resilient in the classroom, in the playground, and the shared messages. And to be honest, your school, parents can be saying to school, can we have a parent session on respectful relationships? I have a massive impact, blowing my own trumpet, on parent sessions, because people haven't heard it before. You know, parents will say to me, that's the first sexuality education I've ever had.
My gosh.
They say that. Well, a year nine. A year nine.
Aren't happening though.
That's right.
Yeah.
A year nine said to me once, when I said, oh, make sure your parents come to the parent session tonight. And they said, what are you going to teach them? We're here, aren't we? They've had their heterosexual penis vagina sex. What else is there to know?
Yeah, my gosh.
We can do a lot more, but parents need to educate themselves. It's not just going in and doing this blindly. And there's so many resources. Parents, just do a few, looking around the internet. I've got in front of me here these images from EliseGravel.com. She's an artist in France. Girls can be, and all the words, and boys can be, and all the words. Put them up in the toilet. You know, girls can be loud, cranky, gross and fart, silly, strong, leaders, angry, dirty and funny. Boys can be sensitive, caring, quiet, gentle, artsy, dreamers, scared, affectionate and pretty. And you know who'll learn from it the most when it's in the toilet in the household? The adults. Yeah,
exactly. And in fact, what you just read out, I actually do have. I have that. I have the complete opposites of what people expect kids to be, and I think that makes it a lot easier to have those conversations. But again, then there's not that expectation of, oh, your little boy's the quiet, soft one in the playground, and all the other ones are tearing around. So it's, you know, that fine line of wanting them to be strong and resilient and being able to fit in and be with everyone else, but at the same time, if it's not them naturally, you've just got to find that middle ground, don't you, really?
Because the boy, girl and what they're supposed to be is a social construct, completely made up. Every child in that school, especially pre-puberty, is just a human being themselves.
Exactly. I love that.
You know, and we've got to see it like that. We have to see it like that. Kids can tell me this. They say it's a social, gender is a social construct. It is. Let's just be humans. Let's just be who we want to be.
Let's just be humans and accept each other. Well, I love that we're having this today on International Women's Day, and it just followed the Mardi Gras, because I know...
How good was it?
It was good. I know, it was fabulous. I actually just used to live a couple of blocks away from Oxford Street, so it's something that I've always been surrounded by for many, many years, for at least 10 years. And I loved it because my kids got to sit there with me on the couch and we had this conversation about it. And, you know, I wanted to just touch on that they are, you know, my kids have got friends with two dads and two mums, and again, it's all of that conversation as well that we could have another live on.
Well, you know, I just had a parent ring me the other day just to say, how can I help this other parent? Their boy has just told them that they're in the wrong body.
Yes,
you know, and that is human diversity. So parents, be ready for that. Your kids may not be cisgender or heterosexual. And are you prepared for that? Because your positive response is essential to their health and well-being.
And from what age do you
support.
typically... Oh, sorry, I'm cutting you off.
No, go. No, let's go. We've got so much to chat about. Go.
From what age do you typically start to see this? I mean, I know, because I guess we're in the mindset of toddlers, preschoolers, everything happening at milestones, but you start to wonder at what stage do you start looking at, you know, how they're acting or behaving, or perhaps comments, because I know that when they're younger they can mix up he's and she's and all the rest, but yeah, from what age do you typically start to see some of these things pop up?
Well, two things. Just one with this example, they said, the parents were starting to expect that the child might be gay. He was 12. They are 12, because I don't know what the pronouns they're going to end up using. They're 12. They thought they were going to be gay. They weren't expecting that I'm in the wrong body. So that's just one, and they're 12, and they're succinct. My question to parents and to you would be, when do we know we are the gender that we are? Ask yourself that. When did you know you're the gender that you are, and how did you know it? Now, I ask kids this, and they say, well, people tell us what toys to play with, and people put a dress on us. All that, all of the above. Actually, it's known that the majority of humans have a good sense of their own gender identity at around age 3 and 4. And in fact, a parent at a parent session once said to us all, their 3-year-old came up to them and said, there's no boy here anymore, there's just a girl, the boy has died, and they lived as a girl ever since, and they were 8.
Wow.
But they were able to say it. Wow. So parents, that's just part of parenting a human, is be ready that this might be the case. I've done a podcast on that. I think it's episode 11 on how to prepare yourself for that. But again, sorry parents, but I know there are plenty of parents out there. I had one on a parent session the other night who completely outed themselves as homophobic and transphobic. Really didn't read the room, honestly. Why are we spending so much time on talking about diversity, they said.
Oh my gosh.
I know, because adults discriminate against children and cause them mental health issues for being who they are. That's why.
Exactly. But it's again this mentality, this upbringing, this rigid kind of thought process, which again ties in with the reason we're here chatting today, is these rigid gender stereotypes that this is the way it should be and this is the way it's always been, and why we, you know, faced with these different scenarios now. And I mean, I've heard it so frequently myself.
So let's challenge our thinking on International Women's Day 2021, when the world is upside down. This is the time. And I know it's hard, parents, and some of you are going to sit there and go all sorts of profanities. I've heard them all. Sorry, I'm not going to apologise, because our kids need us. And apps like Kiindred and, you know, what I'm doing is helping. We're there to support you, parents. Do this. Our kids need us. Do not rely on your schools. Do not rely on the government. Do not rely on anyone else. Our health and well-being of our kids, look at me getting on my high horse,
I love it.
You know, our health and well-being of our kids is our responsibility. And you teach them to swim, and you teach them to eat healthy, and you teach them to cross the road. Well, you teach them to be a human that's respectful and have fantastic intimate partnerships, because in other countries they do it throughout their schooling and they have much better outcomes later on. So in Australia, let's do this.
Let's start today. So absolutely love everything you do, and thank you for always being such a wonderful contributor to Kiindred, because we have these articles in there for, like you say, we have the nutrition, the behavior, the sleep. This is the important conversation to have. Body safety, how to name private body parts, how to respond when they ask where babies come from. I mean, these are just some of the articles that you have given us to share with parents, and then the ongoing work you obviously do through your podcast and your parent session. So thank you.
Pleasure.
If anyone does have any questions, because obviously we've got those that have joined us live today, which is amazing. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
But if there are any questions, be sure to send them through, because we're always here to answer them. We can point you in the right direction with the resources. But again, you know, it was so important for us to have this gender bias conversation and these rigid gender stereotypes conversations today on International Women's Day, so that we can raise brilliant humans that are kind and empathetic, and I think, you know, we can be the change. We sure can.
We can. Thanks so much for the opportunity. Thanks for all your work for supporting parents. Love being a part of it.
I love chatting today, and I'll share this to stories for anyone that wants to play it back. It'll be on the feed as well. All right, we've got some beautiful comments too. Have a little read when you've hung up.
Okay, I will. Thanks so much.
Awesome. All right.
Bye-bye. See you. Bye-bye.